It's the Indie Writers Club with Cara Clare and James Blatch. A place to relax, chat, learn and vent about life as an independent author. Get episode alerts and links at indiewritersclub.com. Now, here's Cara and James.
Hello and welcome to the Indie Writers Club. I am James Blatch.
I am Cara Clare. Welcome back, James Blatch, again.
Yeah, I know. I was back for 2 days and off to Seville. So I've been in Seville at the Global Publishing Summit, which sounds a bit like the G7 or something, doesn't it? Sounds like
it does. It sounds very important. Very important.
When I told people I'm addressing the Global Publishing Summit, it sounded very cool.
It sounds very fancy. How was it and when did you get back?
It was good. I actually changed my flight to come back a bit earlier, but on the same day. But I came back I had a 7:15 flight from Seville, which did mean a 4:40 alarm. By the way, how old am I? I got out of my room at 5 o'clock to pick up my Uber, and there were people not only coming out of the nightclub, but the nightclub was still going. The boom, boom, boom across the road. But there were people queuing to go in at 5 o'clock in the morning.
No, they weren't. That I don't believe you.
And it was going full on. I think it's Spain, isn't it? They don't go out to eat till 10 and they're ready for the nightclub. Must have been
a hard no from me.
Yeah, it's a hard no from me, but anyway.
I don't do anything now unless I can be at home in bed by 10 p.m.
It's a nice city, Seville, and I would like to go there and spend more time at some point. It's the second year I've been. It did rain again, which is a bit disappointing because it rained in March last year when we went, and it rained in May this year. But we really had one day of a lot of heavy rain during the day. But that was the time we were in the conference. In the evening, it was fine, and the day before was 30 degrees, as you expect that time of year. So what was it like? I didn't go to as many of the sessions at Seville. I felt a little bit sessioned out, and I also, I'm in work catch-up mode, so I did a lot of catching up. But some of the people who were in Aruba were there. So obviously Steve Higgs, he addressed the conference. Also Tony Lee did his session. I listened to, what did I listen to? I did a session I talked about translations on a panel, and I'll talk about that in a minute, what I'm doing with my translations. And I did my session on book packaging, which is kind of my thing at the moment.
Okay, yep.
Which seemed to go down well. I did listen to some other sessions, but I just can't remember them at the moment. But
I love Seville. Good. I really love it as a city, and I've never been to the conference there. So it's on my list for next year.
Well, they gave me a new nightmare to have because I think 4 days before the conference, we got an email saying the venue has changed. I mean, when you organise a conference, you understand the gravity of that sentence.
Mm-hmm.
So what happened is 4 days before they were due to hold this conference, where they've held it for 3 or 4 years, the police came in and shut it down and said, you can't open this venue again. So it's just like us being told a week before SPS the venue is unavailable to have its license withdrawn. So it was horrific for them.
And I heard that the venue was really nice.
Really nice, old railway shed, yeah. And it got closed down because apparently they didn't obey fire regulations. They were showing football games in the cinema or something. There was some trouble, or they got, I don't know exactly what it was, but it's pretty brutal in Spain. By the way, the building that this was in, this old railway shed, is where this nightclub was at 5 o'clock in the morning. So the nightclub was still going. I guess other aspects of it were okay, but the actual cinema where they held the conferences. Anyway, they moved to a place called, I don't know what it's called, but it's a museum about Magellan. And Magellan was the guy who first circumnavigated the world in the 1500s. And his ships left this place, this exact building, and it's now a museum to him. So it's actually very atmospheric. It's right down on the river, as you'd imagine. They've got one of his ships, a mock-up of one of his ships outside. And I actually really liked it. And I think they were thinking they're just going to go there next year. I think I wouldn't go back to that venue anyway.
Well done them for finding a backup within 4 days.
Goodness, Heidi Hines and Enrique organise it. And yes, they did a great job. So yeah, it was a good conference. It's a little bit mixed, I think, in terms of pitch. So there was actually a good session from Pablo on his AI workflow. He's a good, writes quite a lot of books, Pablo, and he talked about where he uses AI and to what point, everything through the process, not writing, but everything else. So that was a good session. Yes, so it was good. And I do think it's a good one to go to for people listening who've not dipped their toe into the sort of conference waters before. Obviously, we've got ours in next month in London, but it's a it's a cheapish flight to Seville. You can get a Vueling flight, which is like a budget airline from Gatwick, and I suspect you could probably get to a nearby town with EasyJet or Ryanair somewhere, if not Seville itself.
Ryanair goes to Seville, I believe I went from Stansted when I went, so quite near us.
So and it's just enjoyable, and in the evening it's lovely and sunny, and I went for a nice run along the river. I always end up running in the sketchiest part of town, which helps me run faster. But I did that. I ran the wrong way down the river, and suddenly was a few people doing drugs in the park. But I like that.
I like that method. I was going to say something to you then, but I've forgotten. I do have something to say to you, which is, have you noticed anything different about me, James Black?
Your hair has changed colour yet again.
Yay! You noticed.
You didn't have it. You had it. Go on.
I was just going to say this is a test, because it's a running joke that James just never, ever, ever notices, ever. Because I had blonde hair for pretty much the first 5 years that we knew each other, and then dyed it brown for a short amount of time. And I was trying to decide whether to go back to blonde. And James said, I just can't imagine you as a blonde.
I have decided
that on YouTube.
I'd be useless as the witness to a crime.
You would, yeah.
I would
You'd be like,
no
it was
clue.
a woman. I just don't know. Yeah. So it's now no longer funky colours.
Whereas my wife Jill would be able to tell the police what everyone was wearing on their feet, because that's her magic trick, her party trick. If you could try this on Jill next time in the pub, and everyone's feet will be under the table, and you'll say to her, what is everyone wearing? She'll tell you what everyone is wearing around the table. Yeah,
you've said that before about Jill, and it makes me really self-conscious, because I'm just not a shoe person. I always just chuck on my dog walking trainers or something, even with a dress. So anyway, this is like top class rambling now, isn't it?
Top class banter. Anyway, you've changed your hair colour, which honestly, I sort of, now you've mentioned it, I see it, but I am just not programmed that way, I'm afraid. So I'm sorry.
That's all right. I was kind of hoping you wouldn't, just so I could make fun of you for it.
There you go. Okay, we've got a few things to talk about. There's a few items of news. We're going to ramble about that. I'm going to tell you what we're doing next week for the next 2 weeks, which is we're going to be getting deep into story and character again, which has been like a recurring theme for us, but it's so important. And I do think, having done those 440 episodes of the self-publishing show, I don't think we talked about craft enough. I think we talked a lot about marketing. It's easy to talk about Facebook ads, the technical stuff, and it's harder to frame a discussion about craft. But craft is what, I don't know about you, but I go to bed thinking about it at night and wake up in the morning thinking about the story you're working on and whether it's working or not and what you need to do. So,
and that's the thing that's universal no matter what level you're at. When we talk about the business side, it's hard to pitch that so that it's right for everybody, because there'll be some people listening to this podcast who have published 50, 60 books, and they really don't need an intro to Facebook ads. And there'll be some people that do, but craft is universal. You can always learn something from a discussion on craft, no matter how many books you've written. So are we going to do our Slow Horses episode next week?
So we're going to do next week, we're going to have a Hollywood screenwriter as a guest. So
is that next week? You can tell we don't discuss this stuff beforehand.
Yeah. Well, it's not like a complete surprise to you. You did know he's coming on, but
I did, but I didn't know it was next week.
I think it'll be a good two episode thing, because he will talk about Slow Horses and Gladiator 2 as well, because so his name is Tom Donnelly, TD Donnelly. He writes thriller novels now, but he's got like a 3-decade career in Hollywood, and he can talk to us about how to write a book to be adapted, how to pitch, how that process works, how it doesn't work, how films don't get made. I mean, somebody who's both made films and no doubt had a litany of films that haven't been made as well, because that's how Hollywood works.
Yeah.
But he is brilliant about character and story. He's like an obsessive, like we are, about it. And he's
excited about this.
Yeah, so this
is going to be our first guest, and it's going to be a chat, not an interview. So it will be this, but just plus a person.
I knew within about 30 seconds of meeting Tom that he would slot into our
I haven't met him, so I'm very excited. So
that's going to happen next week. And then the week after, so we will record the episode. After that episode, we'll record the episode, our thoughts on Slow Horses and Gladiator 2. So if you'd like to contribute, before this episode goes out on Friday, I will post into our various channels some questions to think about with those two items. And
I need to rewatch Gladiator 2, and I'm upset that I've given myself that homework.
I know, me too.
Because now I need to watch it again.
Yeah. And I know
doesn't it have Pedro Pascal in it?
It does have Pedro Pascal
Yeah.
in it.
See, even he's not making any better. Anyway.
So are you watching,
I
by
promise
the way,
I'll do my homework.
related subject, are you watching The Last of Us Season 2?
Yes, I'm up to date. I just got up to date last night. Oh my God.
So we can't really talk about it because it's a spoiler, but I would like to talk about it at some point. I would just like to say...
Because
it's in the video game, but who the hell knows that? Nobody knows that. I didn't know that.
Most people, don't they?
No, not most people. A tiny minority of people play video games. Tiny.
I just figured I didn't know because I haven't played the game.
You tell me, you give me the name of one person you know who's played The Last of Us on video game.
I can name 3.
Really? Who's played it?
Yes, Dr. Paul. My best friend, Dr.
He's played The Last of Us. He's not just a video gamer. He's played The Last of Us.
Yes. My friend Ian. They're all men, the people who've played it. And actually, no, I can't name 3. I can name 2.
Okay, so I think I probably know one, and I know a lot of people who play a lot of video games. My son plays every video game. He's not played The Last of Us. It's a big open world game. It's not, not necessarily for everyone. Anyway, so my point is, I'm probably a slightly above average view in terms of what I know. I know what's going on, what's coming down. I didn't know. I didn't know this. So there's something happens in this series, and I think it's brilliant, and it's bold, and it's like how Hollywood should be, but most of the time isn't, because some suit somewhere says you can't do that. And the only reason they've got this through is because it was the original source material. But I love it. And anyway,
I have to say, when I suspected that this happened, I didn't know because I didn't play the game. I suspected that it happened. Just my spidey senses were tingling. And then I asked my friend who played the game. And they were like, yeah, you're right. And then I thought, I don't want to watch it. It really put me off. And I was like, no, do it. And having watched it, I think they did it so well. It worked so well. And I'm annoyed that we can't have the discussion for the reasons of spoilers.
We have to wait for everyone to watch it.
Yeah, because
anyone who's going to watch The Last of Us.
It would have been easy to chicken out and do what everyone would want to happen. And they didn't. And it's worked surprisingly well.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'd like to talk to TD Donnelly about this next week. So why don't we say to everyone listening to this, if you are going to watch Last of Us, you don't have to watch, it's not homework.
Yeah.
But if you're going to watch The Last of Us, watch up to see the end of episode 2.
Yes.
By next week. And
by next Friday, and then we can talk about it freely.
And we'll say at the beginning of the episode, there's a spoiler in here for The Last of Us, so don't listen to it.
We'll play a klaxon or something.
Yeah. The spoiler alert klaxon. Okay. All right, look, I want to talk a bit about the French translations that I've been doing.
Yes,
so I'm doing a little test on this.
With somebody yesterday and saying that you were doing it, and I wanted to know what was going on. So what's happening?
I went into Scribe Shadow and got my books translated. I did the proofing option, I think, on 2 of them, and then didn't do it on the 3rd one, or I may have done all 3, I can't remember. So basically, you get charged per word, and it cost me, I think I got 600,000 words for £199, something like that. So I got all my books done, and then about half that amount again to get that same book proof. But it's being proofed by the same engine, by Claude. So I wasn't convinced that it was worth it, but I did it anyway. But someone said to me, don't bother getting it proofed in the future. Doesn't have a human intervention at this stage. Now, my books are technical, and I have been caught out before with translations into Germany, with the technical stuff not being translated properly. So I am open-minded as to how this is going to go. And I've been running Facebook ads. I've tried Amazon ads. They didn't work at all, just didn't serve. And I think that's because they were brand new titles, no background information for Amazon. So I found it really hard to serve the ads. So I think I have to do what I knew you have to do with new titles, which is to run Facebook ads at a very targeted audience until you basically train Amazon into who your audience is. Those Facebook ads have not gone really well so far. So I think I've sold £35 worth of books, and I'll have to look at how much I've spent on ads. Let me have a quick look. I can do that whilst I'm here. Blimey, I was going to say I've spent 1,000, but I'm looking at the wrong account, thank goodness. I'm looking at a different account.
No, they've suddenly started spending. I keep having to remind myself to check my Amazon ads for that reason, because I've got some which is sort of low budget, but you know how sometimes you have to quite often set the budget higher than to get it to spend. So I keep having to remind myself to check that it hasn't suddenly gone to max budget and is spending £50 a day.
Yeah. So I spent £73 on ads and made £35 in sales. I lost, but at the moment I'm trying to get reviews. I want the first reviews to come through because I want to know if the translation's any good. That's really my purpose at the moment. But the other thing I did, and this was a result of our discussion on our Patreon, we had a really good first Patreon, I think I mentioned before, first Patreon live Q&A. Mm-hmm. Already looking forward to the next one because I learned heaps.
I am. I was thinking, when are we doing the next one? We have to sort that out because I'm really looking forward to it.
And we talked about this method of translation through Scribe Shadow AI. And there was advice not to even bother changing the title. And I wondered, I was speculating in my mind thinking, why did that work? And maybe that works because in France, the people who want to read American and British books are looking specifically for them, the translated versions of them. They're not looking for French authors. And so maybe you flagging that up with an English title does that. Mm. But because I've been a bit disappointed with the take-up of sales, and I did have the titles translated, I'm thinking about doing an A-B split test. So I'm going to run a little bit longer on these, and then I'm going to change the titles to the French titles.
Interesting.
And do the cover and see how that goes. But I only have 2.5 books. France is a slightly slower market than Germany. I make profit in Germany, good profit. But France is a slightly slower environment. My example might not disprove it works. It might just be I don't have enough books. You know, making £35 effectively on book one, mainly book one, I imagine I have to break that down, is probably profitable if I had like 4 or 5 books. So
yeah.
So that's
it'll be interesting to see the difference between the titles. Like that would be really a good test to do, because I was talking to somebody about this yesterday and saying that somebody had suggested to us that they don't bother changing their titles.
Yeah.
But even in terms of what Facebook shows it to, or who Facebook shows it to, it might play a part maybe.
Yeah.
Sorry, we've got a greyhound interrupting. It's not dinner time. It's not even close to dinner time.
No, starting to ask for dinner.
Yeah. It's because he got used to having a lunchtime snack when he was trying to put on weight after he'd been in racing. And now we've got to drop the lunchtime snack and it's not going down very well.
No. Our dogs run a campaign called Lunch for Dogs because they think dogs should have lunch. But
do they? I agree.
They carry placards around. So that's interesting. I am excited about it. And I think it's money, even if you don't run ads or very low level ads, it should turn into a profit for me eventually. Probably if I run $5 a day ads rather than 10, 15. And I've already done my first Dutch translation run through Scribe Shadow. I haven't published that yet, but I'll get all the books done. So I think I may have run out of words now for this month. So I'll go into next month. Scribe Shadow, I'm hoping they're going to come to the show. They are talking to us.
SBS.
Yeah, they're talking to us at SBS at the moment. But
it'd be good if they do. It'd be nice to have a conversation with them because it's something that suddenly everybody seems to be talking about. These things go through phases, don't they? And it's like everybody I'm talking to at the moment is talking about getting AI translations out there. Maybe because everything in general is quite difficult at the moment in terms of ads, and a lot of people are kind of seeing that struggle for sales. So
yeah.
Speaking of which, actually, I had an update on my viral TikTok video. So just to show the difference in what the conversion is now between what it was last year. So in September, I had a video that did the exact same amount of views, so about 150,000, and that did me an £11,000 month. This time, the exact same amount of views was £5,500. Wow.
And is that just because it's not serving in America?
I don't know if it's because it's not serving in America or just because people aren't buying as much because it's more saturated, more people are saving it. Maybe it will have a longer tail on it. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to keep an eye on it because that 11,000 month peaked and then went down again quite quickly, whereas this does seem to have a longer tail. So maybe it's just that people are saving the video and not buying straight away or not downloading straight away. I don't know.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's disappointing, isn't it, that's happened? But it does seem to coincide with you and others complaining they're not getting the visibility in the US.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's disappointing in a way, but it's also not because I like to have numbers. And also, as Adam Beswick always says, that was free. I didn't do anything in order to generate that. I didn't have to spend a penny in order to generate that. It was just a 6-second video. So it still works. It's just that the conversion isn't what it was. But I like numbers, so it's good to know.
Yeah, and ultimately, yours is free. So even Facebook ads, if I end up putting £73 in and I make £85, it's still worth doing, isn't it? Because it gives you visibility and ranking, gets you picked up for a Kindle deal here and there. And in your case, you're putting nothing into apart from your time and making £5,500.
Yeah, and we've said before that that's when things get difficult, is when you compare to what the situation was last year, or you compare it to 5 years ago, and everything has changed. So we're not really in that era of one TikTok video making you, hundreds of thousands of pounds, or getting 3 times return on your Facebook ads.
Yeah,
it has changed.
You do have your direct sales as well, don't you?
Although exciting news, which I can announce officially now, I've just signed over my print rights to Adam Beswick's publishing company for my main series, because he's got the warehouse, he's got everything set up. He's been doing phenomenally on TikTok Shop. The books that I go straight with him under the name Alexis Brooks have been doing so well. And it's something I just don't have the capacity for. I don't have the capacity to set up that kind of thing at home. So it's really exciting. So he's taken them on, kind of doing a proper print run, and then is going to be selling them direct and also on TikTok Shop. So I'm excited to see what happens there.
Good. Well, keep us in touch. I think it's that time of year, I think when you write women's fiction or romance, you can start bundling physical books for holidays, can't you? You sort of do little bundle packages. That's one of the things I was talking about in Aruba with the romance author, how well that works for them, particularly for backlist stuff. You can do a box set and stuff. So, yeah. Good. Okay. We've got a couple of other things to talk about in this episode. And one is that there has been finally somebody's launched a publishing company for men. We've been waiting for this for so long.
I was so happy when I saw this. I just thought, all this time, these poor men have been so underrepresented. Yeah. Okay, so I think this was a little bit clickbaity in terms of the articles. And I think what they were hoping for was female outrage at the fact that there's been a publishing company launched for men. So the premise is that this new publishing company, I actually can't remember their name. I've got it up here somewhere.
Well, Jude Cook is the founder, and I think it's called it Conduit Books.
Yes. So the idea is that they believe that, and they've been very kind of diplomatic in the way they phrased it, that it's been such a good thing that there's been a real surge in female voices and blah, blah. But they do feel that that's led to the underrepresentation of new emerging male voices in fiction. I've spent some time thinking about it, and I spent some time researching it. And I think my opinion on this is going to very much depend on what content they publish. So there's an indie author called Rob Radcliffe, and he writes rom-coms from the guy's point of view. Yeah. So if it's kind of things like that, where it's genuinely something that the male point of view is underserved, then I can kind of get on board with it. But I think we've also got to remember that still the overwhelming amount of the literary canon is male authors. And I was kind of Googling it and trying to find out what the percentage was. And there was several articles saying that research now suggests that women publish over 50% of books. And it's like, how dare they?
Or 78% of those in editorial roles in publishing are women.
Yes. Yeah.
According to him.
I mean, that is true, but it tends to, having worked in publishing, what tends to happen is that the men hold the higher positions within the corporation. But yeah, I think, what do you think, James Blatch?
Well, I don't remember the précis to this, as he says that in the 80s and 90s, male authors were looked at as being toxic and problematic. And I don't remember that bit, because I read male authors.
No.
I read Tom Clancy.
I don't.
I mean, what's his name, who wrote The Best a Man Can Get? I remember that being sort of male author, male orientated book. Who's that? I'll think of his name in a minute. I don't remember the toxicity, but then maybe that's a damning indictment of me. But so I don't remember the problem that he's talking about that led to a resurgence of female publishing of female authors that needs to be now addressed. So anyway, that I agree with you. I mean, buried in this article, I think, as he says, he's looking to publish 3 books next year.
Yeah.
So this is not.
It's very much, like I said, trying to generate people talking about it. But I'm the same as you. I felt like the focus on, females or underrepresented demographics was to redress the balance. It wasn't because everybody was saying everything that men have published has been toxic. It was because there was a imbalance in what was actually out there. And when we're talking about self-publishing, anyone can self-publish. So it's not really an issue.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. the whole framework is very traditional publishing, or these people are not being heard. Well, publish a book. You don't have to wait for somebody to validate your book idea.
And I just sort of wonder who is going to submit to this publishing company and what their mindset would be when they're submitting to it and what sort of material they're going to get, because most male authors that I know would just submit to any, that it wouldn't occur to them to be like, well, I'm not going to submit to Bloomsbury because, or an agent, actually. Usually you find an agent rather than submitting directly to a publisher, because they only publish women. So yeah, it doesn't seem to have gathered the attraction that they were hoping for. So I think it's a watch this space and we'll see what they actually publish.
John O'Farrell, by the way, was the author I was trying to think of, who wrote The Best a Man Can Get. So I suspect treating men as an underrepresented minority in publishing was a bit clickbaity. But
yeah, I think
there you go. Okay, so we've got coming up a busy period for me in particular, but probably others as well. Why is it? I saw someone say the other day that May is the busiest month of the year. And I don't know.
We've got 2 bank holidays, haven't we? And we've got a half term. So in terms of parenting, our kids have only been back at school 2 weeks. And now we've got another half term coming in 2 weeks. And there's also 2 bank holidays in there. So the actual days that we have available to work are not that many. And we're all playing catch up from the Easter holidays. So I definitely feel under pressure in May. And we've got, obviously, it's also the start of conference season in the indie publishing world, isn't it? So there's a lot of things coming up and a lot of chunks of time out of the schedule.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to having a few days. I am sneaking off next weekend after, to Mallorca for biking a few days. But I'm looking forward to having a few days in the office to get stuff done. I've been working mainly on Vinci book stuff because that's priority for me whilst I've been away every morning basically, but that means my stuff slipped a bit, although I am still writing every day, which is good. So I do that first.
Well done.
But I need solid days. I worry, unless I'm on top of my work, I don't sleep very well. So I need a few 8 or 9 hour days in the office and get stuff done. So I'm looking forward to that. And then I've picked up a few sort of well-being things in Aruba in conversations with people. So first of all,
I'm interested to hear this.
Well, one thing is just organising my day. So I'm not being very good at that. I've sort of fallen into... I am a list man, so I have a long list of stuff. But I got so busy for a couple of years that I wasn't getting stuff done off that list. That stressed me out. And then I would get to the point where I knew I had so much to do, it didn't really matter about. I'd just sit down and start doing stuff. To the point where I'd almost, at some points, find myself not working because I was just a bit disorganised about what I'm doing next. So now I spend the first half an hour of the day planning what I'm going to do. It's not even half an hour. 10 minutes planning what I'm going to achieve that day, knowing it can be derailed. And I have had one of those days today, but that's okay. It's set out in front of you what you intended to do today. And the day's not over, by the way. I've got time to get to the bottom of this list. And that's helped me. The other thing is to go for a walk immediately after lunch, which is good for you. I don't eat until lunchtime anyway, so it's good for you to walk after a meal. And secondly, it's just that rumination, oxygen to your brain when you're walking, helps you think about the stuff you've been doing and that you're going to do in the afternoon. Particularly, I think if you're writing, I think this works very well. So I took the dogs out for a 15-minute, trot around to the Chinese bridge, as we call it in Godmanchester, and back again. So I'm doing that. So it's not just sitting at my desk for 9 hours, although there's quite a lot of that as well. But we are an odd bunch, aren't we? We're authors, but we're entrepreneurs as well. We're basically our own business owners. And the funny thing is, somebody pointed this out in Aruba, is we were in the Caribbean, crystal clear water, white sand, swimming pools, nice warm temperature. And yet what everybody was really gunning to do at 3:00 in the afternoon, we started to wind down, was get to the room and do some work. And that's what most of us did. And that was what we wanted to do. And we were on our own. We could get some stuff done. And then people would float down 2 hours later, sort of 5 or 6 o'clock. And I think if you're in the vacuum cleaner selling business at a conference, I doubt that would happen.
We definitely have that, don't we? Where like you'll go to a conference and you go home kind of itching to get back to your routine and to like get back to writing and your business. And I do definitely enjoy and crave both. I don't think I could ever just solely do the writing. I think I'm at the point where I like mainly focusing on the writing and I like the balance that I've got right now, but I enjoy it all too much. But I write my list the night before. So before I go to bed, I sit and write And I even put the timings of what I'm going to do and when I'm going to do it. And I write the whole thing down, absolutely everything. And I'll even then write things that I need to do later in the week just to get them out of my head so I get a good night's sleep. And I walk before I start working. So I do the school run, come home, I meditate, I do Pilates, I take the dog for a walk, and then I start and I do admin before lunch and then writing after lunch. Yeah, and then I do school run at in about 45 minutes time.
I'm going to try getting into meditation. I was talking to a guy recently who teaches it. He teaches a transcendental meditation. He says transports you into, it's almost like eating a hallucinogenic. It sounded random. It's just meditation.
Yeah, no, I've done ones like this. So they can be so powerful, and to transition your mind from, especially for us, if you've been doing admin, something, working on Vinci stuff, whatever you've been doing, and you need to get into a writing space, I've got into the routine of doing a meditation to kind of transition me from one mindset to the other, because it really helps to reset everything. So highly recommend. And then I pull my tarot cards and do some spells, but we'll talk about that another time.
Yeah, I probably won't do that. Yes, okay. Well, I will look into meditation. There's some apps, isn't there, you can get and practice.
Yeah, and there's loads of stuff on YouTube. Absolutely loads.
I'm definitely a candidate for it because a couple of times I've done it. When I was a BBC reporter, they sent me off to the Buddhist Centre in Newmarket Road in Cambridge, and I was like 100% like I've been asleep for half an hour, and he did me sort of did a therapeutic chat and quiet time, and I'm 100%. My personality is up for that, but I just don't do it. So I'll look to do that. Okay, yeah, so we got our conference, which is June the 25th and 26th. There's still tickets available for the main day for June the 25th. We have like 900 seat capacity. We have to hold some of the seats back, but I don't know how. It's always a bit questionable how many we can squeeze in, but there is definitely a couple of hundred seats at the moment, although we do sell quite a lot in the last 3 weeks, annoyingly. Everyone decides at the last minute they're going to go. But if you go to learnselfpublishing.com/SPS live to grab those seats, the workshop day is sold out, which is a shame because you won't be able to see Cara Clare, who's going to be with Adam Beswick.
I know. Yeah, we're doing a TikTok workshop, which I'm very excited about. I did a panel with Adam in Ireland, and we're friends, so doing anything like the two of us is super fun. But
immediately following that is our writers' retreat, our Indie Writers Club writers' retreat at Mattingley Hall in Cambridge, and we've got one more person coming as of this morning. So that is now.
Is it who I think it is?
I don't know who you think it is.
Okay,
give me the initials. Initials. S. No.
Is it not? Interesting.
No. I think S has come in too late by 24 hours.
Do you think?
I think because we had our 20-room block, so it's 18 plus 2, and then we were able to accommodate Dan and Cheryl. They moved out, I sort of allocated provisionally down one room. They moved out to the lodge, which gave us that one space left. Yeah. And then I got an email yesterday, and I think S, who you referred to, messaged me this morning.
Never mind, it wasn't meant to be.
We'll double check. I mean, we can double check with Mattingley. They might get a cancellation, but we are chocker on that. And
I'm really looking forward to it, actually, and what I'm trying to do is wrap up all of my current works in progress, before then, so I can start a new project at the writing retreat.
Yeah. Well, we're going to think about how to structure it, but I do want it to be a relaxing time for people because it was quite intense in the room. We spent long times together chatting, and I don't want that to be the takeaway. I want people to have some time together and then some time just wandering the grounds and coming back together for a bit in the afternoon. So I'm not going to overload it with anything. But at the same time, it would be nice to have some roundtable discussions about some of the things we talk about. Like, for instance, the people who didn't make the workshop, we could talk about TikTok if that's one that people talk about. We'll get the group going and start building up towards that. We might even record an episode while we're there.
Do we have to?
No, we don't have to.
I just want to relax.
Yeah, exactly. So that's all coming up in the near future, and I'm really keen to get my revised Dark Flight book done. So I've finished the first part; it's virtually finished. I'm like a few pages from the end of that, and I've done everything I wanted to do, which is to change the guy from being underconfident and a bit wimpy to arrogant and needing, that as a mechanism did the same thing in the story, but there are two more passes to do on it. So one is to feed in this alternate storyline of the guy who turns out to be the same person in the second half of the story, but his Russian origins. And I've done half of that, so I've got another half of those, another few. They're nice because they're just scenes that sit in between the existing chapters, going backwards and forwards. But then I've also decided that the middle is too saggy. This is
saggy middle.
This is mission creep. This is mission creep because they start off doing one thing, but we all don't like our saggy middles, do we? None of us like our saggy middles.
No.
But more or less every book has it, right? Every book inevitably has a fast-paced start and
I really avoid saggy middles.
Do you?
I think I can confidently say that I don't suffer from those. My books are short. Yours was
50,000 words. So there's another middle. Well, I mean, that's not an unrealistic option for me, actually. It's just to cut a lot of the middle out. But I do think I need a mechanism. And one of the things I was thinking about on my walk today, although I spent a lot of time talking to Enzo, who was being naughty, my dog. But on the walk today is I need a mechanism. I need a story device that is exciting enough to be like a middle act that has its own beginning, middle, and end. But does the same thing of get to the last third, character A is very good friends with and completely reliant on a big supporter of character B before character B turns out to be a traitor. At the moment, it's a little bit kind of they just get on and he's very helpful in his life. But I think it needs something like character A needs to have some sort of crisis that B resolves for him. So I'm sort of working on that.
Maybe there's a lot. Talk to Tom about next week, because I think in movies this happens, like they're very good at avoiding the saggy middle, but you really notice it when you get ones, especially I notice it in kids movies a lot, because in kids movies if they get that wrong and there's a saggy middle, all the kids start getting restless, their attention is gone, they're not really, and you can really notice it, and as a parent you start sitting there thinking, oh, for heaven's sake, hurry up, because you can just see that their attention is going. So it would be interesting, we could talk to him about how to avoid that and what devices they use.
It's a funny thing, the middle of the book, because it's kind of a lot of the book. And in some ways, you don't have to work. You shouldn't have to sort of start explaining things because people know the characters, they know the environment, know the story. So it's it should be a quality time to spend with the story. But at the same time, you're coming to this last third where stuff's going to happen. And oftentimes, I suspect what we do, if you're not that good at story writing, which probably I'm not, is you're going from the beginning to the end. You're not looking at that middle act as being something. So yeah, let's hear what Tom has to say about that next year. Next week, I was thinking about, there's a film I saw recently, a sort of romance film with Andrew Garfield and, what's her name? She's very good. Florence Pugh.
I haven't seen it, but I saw the trailer. Okay. It looked good.
So I really liked it, but I was thinking about it afterwards. There was something felt unbalanced about it, and I wondered afterwards if it, a bit like the way you describe your books, it didn't have a saggy middle because it just didn't have a middle. It kind of went from the beginning act to the end, and it didn't really have that middle bit. But because there was no sort of moment they were building to it, and it just sort of ended. I mean, it has a bleakish ending. As a spoiler alert, you probably know what the story is, but
I do. That's why I haven't watched it.
Yeah, but then it didn't get universally praised. It got kind of it was great. Fantastic performances, but a lot of people said it was. Not the greatest story. So,
yeah, I mean, I write in a 4-act structure because I find the 3-act structure and having that big gaping, massive middle part really intimidating. And I also have the benefit of being able to just chuck a sex scene in there if it's getting a little bit boring.
Yeah.
So maybe you need some more flying scenes.
Well, I think it's going to have to be. I think it's going to have to be some flying scenes. I think it's going to have to be. Yeah.
You could resurrect the infamous. I've done one of those in a story.
There is a in flying, sex on a plane. There is a romance subplot in this book, so I suppose I could throw a sex scene in, but I don't know.
Do it.
Can't remember.
Votes on a postcard for whether you want James to write a sex scene.
Maybe we could develop that at the retreat. Okay, yes. Look. We've been rambling for 40 minutes. It's been a slightly unfocused episode, but I like the unfocused episodes. Next week, we are going to be getting into story. We are getting into story. 2-parter. The first part is with T.D. Donnelly. Second part is going to be our review, including, I say our, and that means you listening to us, driving to the swimming or on your treadmill, wherever you are. Your feedback on Slow Horses and Gladiator, even if it's just a 2-sentence review of whether it worked for you or didn't work for you, whether you liked it, what you didn't like about it, just a review, or whether you want to get into more detail about what you think you would change to fix it if you think there's something wrong with it. So we're going to do that in 2 weeks' time. And you can put that in
any of the places where we hang out. So there's the Discord, there's the Patreon channel, Patreon, and email, Facebook. Did I say Facebook? Facebook.
And we've had some new Patreon supporters, and next week we will welcome them.
Yes, and also I'm still working on getting the Patreon Discord integration worked out. I'm sending people the invites. It's working for some people, it's not working for other people. But in the meantime, we've got a group on Patreon for people to use for their questions and stuff while I figure it out.
And finally, I'm not going to announce who it is, but I'm going to announce next week, we have a new sponsor for this podcast.
Yay!
Which is very exciting. That is definitely who you think it is.
Good.
And I could not be happier of
I'm really,
the choice.
really happy too. Yeah.
So we have a new sponsor. You're going to hear all about them next week. I had a good call with the company from Gatwick Airport on my way to Seville. But that's going to be announced next week. Okay, that's it, I think, from me.
All right, and me.
By the way, do you say attic or loft?
Wait. What?
Do you say attic or loft?
Say loft.
You say loft.
I'm British.
Does everybody say loft and only I say attic? We've said attic in my family my whole life, and we've lived in new builds and old houses, but
I just thought British people called it a loft.
Could I have been so wrong? So I just said, somebody's asked for something to borrow, and I said, I think it's in the attic. And they went, what, do you live in a mansion? And I thought, doesn't everybody say attic? Apparently just me.
Yeah, just you. Again, answers on a postcard. Let us know, everyone. To me, it's a loft. Yeah.
Wow. On that bombshell. I'm gonna have to
on that bombshell. Right. We'll leave you on that cliffhanger, everybody.
See you next week.
See you next week. Bye.
Support the podcast and get exclusive access by joining our Patreon. From just $1 an episode, you'll be invited to our Discord server, where the weekly discussion continues every day. And our 2 top tiers include a monthly live Q&A with James and Cara. Head to indiewritersclub.com/support. Thank you for listening, and don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. We'll see you next Friday.